don't need to worry about breaking the base because they have broken the backs of Team Rocket, leading house.
Vitality, 4 members alive. They got the 2 carries, been true wings.
The base wide open. They've got their eyes set on the prize. They're feeling good. They're cheering on the stage. And 3 rookies, the line of Vitality, prove themselves worthy of the top 4.
Just a few weeks ago, there were 10 teams vying for the title. Now, only 4 remain.
Every single game we have had so far was just practice.
You can never really count me out, and I'm always going to be there at the top.
What will actually mean something is that we get to the final and win.
Of those teams, 2 are Fnatic and G2 Esports. Between them, they hold all but 1 European LCS championship. I think being the best is just great, but I never experienced it. My legacy is just being third, always, so I want to change it.
We didn't really showcase what we could do. I'm eager to play against G2 again for the semifinals rematch.
My legacy so far hasn't really been what I wanted it to be, and yet to reach certain grounds that others haven't.
Beating Fnatic will mean that we'll likely win the European LCS.
My eyes are on far more than the LCS, but my first prize is ELCS. ELCS is where my heart is.
When I see my team lifting trophy, it just feels 1,000 times better than when I was playing myself.
I would like to get back to winning Europe, because I think if you cannot win Europe, then it's hard to see yourself winning other trophies as well.
This week, 2 teams will earn the honor of fighting for the crown, while the others will receive VIP seats to watch from the sidelines. Because fame is fleeting, but legacy lasts forever.
Hello everyone and welcome to Berlin, Germany, where tonight we will kick off the semi-finals. Just 4 teams remain on the road to Copenhagen, and a win today will put either G2 Esports or Splyce in the spring finals. And we are here to introduce and cover it all for the day. My name is Evie Schokke-Supporter and I'm joined here by Martin the Fisho Lunge and Trevor Quickshot Henry. First up, and I think I speak for absolutely everyone, where the hell is that dog costume and why are you not wearing it?
Not allowed to wear it on air. It is on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Go find it, like it, share it, all that kind of stuff.
We will. We're going to be a bit more serious because there are very serious stakes today, a spot in the final. And let's take a look at how the teams got here. Last week, we saw Splyce take down Rocket and Vitality. They picked up a win over H2K. It took long. It was 5 games, but in the end, through the reseeding, these are the matchups we ended up with. And I personally think we're quite blessed with the matchup specifically.
I mean, these are the 4 teams fighting for first place during the regular season. Vitality started 7-1. Of course, they lost a few games, but they bounced back towards the end. Splyce searching, of course, to try and reach the top spot. In the end, I think we got the 4 best teams fighting each other, and I don't think we can ask for anything more.
No, we could ask for a bit more games last week. Only 8.
Okay, fine. Come on, Rocket.
Yeah, only 8, but still a lot of action. So, Quickshot, run us through what happened exactly last week.
Well, I mean, it's because of Rocket that we only had so few games. And that's, of course, because Splyce, they just showed up. I think if you look back to last week's performance, Splyce, they took down Rocket as expected. However, I was impressed with just how well Niski played. He stepped up. The clip you're looking at right now, his Kassadin went unkilled. It was another one of those EU mids man moments. Splyce, look, they 3-0'd. I thought they could have had a stronger early game based on how well they've been playing leading up to the quarterfinals, but it was a confident, strong win, and we'll see how they're going to do today on stage. We're going to look at our second quarterfinal, a lot messier, a lot more exciting. It went the full 5 games. We got to hear Silver Scrapes. And, of course, the rookie of the split, Jizuke. He stepped up once again. This is, of course, just one of the clips where Jizuke and the rest of Vitality responded well to what H2K were doing. The Talia was very impressive. And I think what really stood out for me for this rookie squad, this young set of rookies that really showed up, they didn't crack under the pressure. It went to the game 5. It went to the deciding moment. And as you see Jizuke cleaning up, this is exactly how the squad advanced the semis.
And it's always important to remember with Vitality, they've played a lot of best of 5s down in the Challenger Series with Giants, in the Spanish LVP as well. So they've been under pressure. They've been in promo tournaments where they got to game 5. They're not going to crack here on the stage.
No, but Gilius did say in the post-game lobby, I wish we were just a bit more thorough in our win, because this doesn't instill us with that much confidence per se. And they're going up versus Fnatic tomorrow in their semi-final. So I want to take a minute to look forward to tomorrow. A best of 5 between Fnatic and Vitality, the rookies versus the guys that are so hungry for that cup. And the matchups across the board are exciting.
We're going to get a lot of early game action. Because Vitality tends to win most early games. Fnatic can go toe-to-toe with them. And then also, I just want to see late game team fights with the man over there somewhere. That's
so is
Reckless.
this it, Trevor? Is it really just Reckless versus Jizuke?
No, you have to remember Soaz isn't there. I mean, one of the big things for Vitality is that Soaz, all of that experience, all that creativity in the top lane, maybe Fnatic won't feed from the top lane as much anymore, but you cannot deny the fact that it's a big hit.
When he's down.
Yeah, Bwipo played, okay? He has some stage experience, but this is now semi-final. The weight of Fnatic, the weight of Reckless and expectations is there. I still think Fnatic are the favorites, but it's not as clear-cut anymore because of that substitution.
It sounds like a clear 5-game semifinal.
I hope
That's
so.
tomorrow, absolutely huge. And today, just as huge, G2 Esports up versus Splyce. On one side, we have the 4-time reigning EU LCS champions. And on the other side, we have a Splyce that has looked very convincing in the second half of the split. They crushed Roccat 3-0. And as an accolade, their coach, Peter Dunn, was just crowned coach of the split. So the signs are in their favor.
There are. And of course, as far as Splyce are concerned, it's been an upward trajectory from week 1. They've consistently improved. They've consistently got better. That's what makes me very excited about the matchup. But you can't remember the blip. They did lose that tiebreaker to G2, which is why Splyce had to play the quarterfinal.
Best of 1, a single game.
That's it. That's it.
I think the fact that Peter Dunn gets coach of the split here is super, super well deserved based on how this team has been improving. We also have to remember there's a bunch of guys with him helping the rest of the team here prepare. They have multiple coaches lined up, always sitting backstage, always yelling very loud when they're winning. So you can always hear when Splyce is doing well.
The Splyce machine to help out in the semifinal versus G2. And we have to take a look at on G2 and on Splyce. There's a lot of experience on both those rosters, and we're going to take a look at exactly how much experience and how much legacy in this beautiful, beautiful graphic, because that for me is really, that really is, you always have to call it out. Just let it happen. Alrighty, so we have to call out the fact that there is so much experience on both squads.
There is, and of course, important to note that both teams are playing in their 5th split. So that's why 5 splits, 4 finals. If G2 win today, they will make their 5th consecutive final, have a shot at 5 consecutive titles. And over on the other side, for Splyce, obviously only 1 final. The rebuild around Kobe at the beginning of the year, I was dubious, but the team has shown constant improvement, constant development, and all of these players have a lot of experience behind them.
Yeah, and I think that's the important one when Splyce drafted his lineup here, was not to go for a bunch of rookies and try and gamble on maybe making players. So it's like, get a bunch of names who have already performed in best of 5s, who we know can be some of the best in Europe, and try and guarantee getting at least a top 4 finish. Now, obviously, they're facing this G2 lineup, which is so new still. I think Splyce goes into this game here with a lot of confidence.
Well, on both sides, we also have a lot of players that want to win and have never been able to lift that trophy in Europe, but have come relatively close. We look at Odo, we look at Jankos, we look at Kobe, we look at Xerxes, but there's one guy, actually the only guy between these 10 and probably the coaching staff that has already led or won the championship, and that is Perkz, Mr. G2 himself.
Yeah, and I think Perkz will just continue being the face of G2 Esports. We saw the first 6 weeks how important his performance was and how he could just carry this team towards so many different wins. Went downhill a little bit when the team had to switch up and Wonder was no longer a carry. That is luckily for G2 kind of bounced back towards multiple members now stepping up.
So when it comes to this semi-final and the path that G2 still has to go before they can lift the trophy, is this the guy you're looking at? Is this the guy that is solo going to carry G2 to the trophy?
I mean, when you're the captain, when you're the leader, when you're the face of the organization, then yes, you will be one of the most important players when it comes to actually winning a semi-final. I still want to highlight Wonder again, and also Jankos. I think this new holy trinity on G2 on the top side will actually be super important for this series. It's not just Perkz. he needs those two guys to perform at the highest level as well.
And you have to look at the opposition as well, right? Odoamne on the other side going to be going up against Wonder. It's going to be a difficult matchup. Xerxes taking on Jankos in the jungle. One of the interesting storylines that I'm going to be tracking as well is this Jankos versus Odoamne. Former teammates, former players, H2K, 2 years side by side. In the video at the top of the day, Jankos used the exact words, "My legacy is to finish third." That is the opposite of the G2 legacy. The G2 legacy is to win every single split they are in. Now, who's going to buckle under pressure? Who's going to falter today? Jankos or Odo? For either of them, it'll be the first time in the finals.
It will be. They've reached a lot already. And as Perk said, I don't want to look too far ahead yet. I do want to look far ahead, but it's going to come down to if we can win today and if we can win the championship. And especially between these two guys, I like to call them brothers who played on H2K for so long, there will be a bit of extra grit there.
Oh, 100%. And we also have to see if they actually can perform in these big games, because that's been some of the questions in the past.
That's been following them. The choke
now,
rumor here and there.
Both players perform at the highest level.
And of course, don't forget the two Danish former teammates as well. Between Wonder and Corby, only one of them will get the shot to play in the finals in Denmark, greatest country in the world. And we need to see who's going to step up and make that happen.
Both teams jam-packed with players to watch, but we do want to know what you think. Who do you think is going to step up and carry their team to victory today? Tweet us at LOL Esports and tell us who will be the main carry for the teams, will carry them to victory and why. So I'm going to extend that same question to you guys about the teams. I know your predictions. I saw LOL Esports tweet them, so I'd like to know. You say G2 is going to win. Why? You say Splyce is going to win. Why?
I think G2 is going to win. I think Wonder is going to be MVP of the series, because I think that top side for G2 with Wonder, Jankos, and Perks will be better than what Splyce can bring. That gives an early advantage over to G2 Esports that they can take and use to then actually get ahead. And we have seen them in the past actually be able to play well also in team fights. And I think Yanan is doing better than people give him credit for. So well-rounded, win early game, and we'll do fine in team fights.
I just hate the fact that I have to go and predict against the superior analyst right now.
I'm tied with amazing at the moment.
I'm going to try, and I think Splyce are going to do it. I believe in the coaching staff. I believe in the preparation that Splyce have shown over the back end of the split. I'm going to ignore the tiebreaker game because nobody knew it was going to happen until the moment that it did.
Okay, good point.
And I think with a full week to prep, I think with a quarterfinal series under their belt, Splyce are going to be warmed up, are going to be ready, and that's how they're going to take down G2.
You're calling it for Splyce. We already saw two Titans fall over in the NALCS, TSM, and C9. I feel like you kind of love the drama as well.
I am indeed. I love the drama. It gives me something more to yell about, and that's why I'm setting it.
Well, you also got a dramatic talk with Jankos. I don't know how dramatic it's going to be. We'll see. You talked to him right before the game, so let's take a look at what he had to say.
I'm joined by Jankos, jungler for G2 Esports, ahead of his first semi-final here under the new G2 logo. Jankos, if you win today, it'll be your first EU LCS final. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means quite a lot. I never went to finals, even though I'm playing from 2014, so it's been like 4 years almost. And this is probably the best shot I have since I'm playing Odoamne, and he never went to finals either, so...
Well, if you have to take Odoamne out, teammates for 2 years, you heard a little earlier in today, you said your legacy is to finish third. Are you going to make Odoamne finish third?
I mean, his legacy is kind of same as mine, but he started playing 1 year after me. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really sad for him that he will still be third, he'll still play for third, fourth place, and I'll be in the finals, but, who knows. And then Proli and Fabi are facing each other, I think, on Sunday, and they are both playing as well for the finals, so it's actually a pretty cool weekend.
What you're trying to say is you will make finals before any of the rest of them, is that right?
Exactly.
Well, there we go. Heard it from Jankos himself.
I don't think they're ready for Medivedi.
I don't think they're ready for Medivedi, but I think they're ready for this semi.
Let's go! Splyce versus G2. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, and this is Andrew Vedia's day. And this is the first semi-final of the EU LCS Spring Split. On the blue side today, it's number 3 seed Splyce.
Ooh, Splyce. Excited to see what they can bring out today. The staple bot lane, the roaring Romanian duo, Niski in the middle lane, who had a fantastic performance in his quarterfinal. These guys are looking to bring up the challenge.
Well, on the other side, they have to face off against G2 Esports, the defending champions, Perks at the helm, a player that has... Every time he's gone to playoffs, he's made it to the finals and he's taken the crown.
Yes, he certainly has. The current king of Europe, he is joined by 4 new teammates. We'll see if they can continue the G2 legacy, and they might very well be feeling the pressure, but given the laughs that I see on stage, it looks like they're primed and ready for action.
It's easy to be jocular, it's easy to joke around when you're coming into game 1 of a best-of-5 series. It'll be a lot harder for them if they start to lose against Splyce, who did look very strong against Roccat last week.
Yes, they certainly did. Convincing convincing 3-0 performance. Yet to see G2 play, and it's always a challenge going into these semifinals because you never really know if it's going to be the same semifinal team that you saw at the end of the regular season, given they've had 2 weeks to prepare for Splyce now.
I have to see how much they prepared for. Picks and bans as we jump on into the action in game 1. Splyce on the blue side, G2 on the red, as we said. And in quarterfinals, red side had a 100% win rate. We'll have to see if that continues today.
So, Zach, not really a surprise ban against Xerxes. Both junglers do enjoy the champion, but it feels like a lot of respect being shown towards Xerxes' ability to engage with one of his big comfort picks. Azir being taken off the board by Splyce. Now, last week, they banned this in every single one of their games. However, it was against Blanc, a big Azir player. Same sort of respect being shown to Perks, given his comfort and familiarity throughout the split.
There's the Camille ban as well from Splyce, getting rid of those carries in the top lane. Both Odo and Wonder have played that very well throughout the split, and Caitlyn the final ban from G2, so they'll get rid of a couple of those AD carries. We'll have to see what Splyce want to first pick.
You'd imagine that Sion would be the priority, but Swain, of course, also left available. Can be flexed to both top and mid lane for Splyce. We did see Niski bring it out last week in the mid lane, even able to get a solo kill onto Blanc with the champion, considered very strong in the current meta.
To see how G2 do decide to answer that, because it's something we see banned out in basically every game. They did leave it open deliberately, and now we'll have to work out exactly where their draft goes from here. It's going to be Tom Kench first, and then maybe an AD carry for them here as well.
I would imagine G2 actually going for, I was going to say jungle initially, perhaps just get the early Sejuani in for Jankos, especially with Kha'Zix taken off the board, but it feels like they want to make sure that Perks is on a strong middle lane. Perhaps they're going to save their AD carry pick till later on, but they have to be careful given the current limited pool with both Xayah and Caitlyn already taken off the board.
It makes sense to get your superstar mid laner on something he's comfortable on. Played that Rise 4 times this split, is 2-2 on it, only a 50% win rate. Splyce will look for a way to answer, and we've seen this Trundle jungle rising up in priority across the last few drafts, Vedios.
It looks like they're also expecting G2 to go for something like an Olaf or the Sejuani. Remember that depending on how G2 want to look to play, they can try and force a lot of early to mid-game decisions with things like the Olaf and the Skarner as well. Both available, and Splyce going to round things out and secure where that Swain is going to go.
So we know the Swain's going to go mid, we know the Sion's going to go top, and we assume the Trundle's going to go in the jungle as well. Top side of the map secured for Splyce. G2 will look to answer here. Jungler possibly for them?
I kind of feel like that you have to go for your AD carry right now. Get Hyanan on the Varus, something he's had a lot of proficiency and comfort on. You can then look to target ban away more. 80 carries if you want, but they're just going to secure Wonder a strong top lane pick. They know it's into the Sion. Typically Gangplank, he does have a rough laning phase. He's going to get pushed in heavily by the Sion early on, but he will have the scaling advantage again. G2 playing very much towards the mid game right now with the Rise and the Gangplank. We're now looking for an early to mid game jungler to come out from G2, and that's kind of where this Trundle's come in. They're forcing G2 onto the Skarner. Wouldn't be surprised to see that ban away from Splyce.
G2 will be the team that get rid of the Varus, so not going to have that Ginsu's power spike in the bottom lane. A lot of AD carries removed from the board as well, so Splyce probably looking towards the jungle bans here. They've still got their bot lane to pick. G2, jungler, and the AD carry. There's a Nidalee ban from Splyce. Not something we've seen too commonly, but has been creeping into solo queue in the last few weeks.
Yeah, it looks like Xerxes saying one of the big things I hate to play against is the Nidalee. Do not want to run the risk. If I'm playing Trundle, I want to play against something like the Olaf or some other tank jungler. So let's just take it off the board. We know that Jankos is more than happy to play an early aggressive jungler.
It's a bit slower in the second ban phase as the teams try and work out exactly where they want to put the priority here. It's the Varus Braum taken away by G2, trying to pinch the pool for Kasing, who's been known much more for his ranged supports in that bottom lane. Things like the Janna, things like the Morgana have been pretty good for him.
Looking at a couple of the other options available, Splyce. I just expect another jungle ban, but it looks like they are actually going to target towards the Kog'Maw. That was something I was going to bring up as a potential option for G2, but now you look at the next AD carry. Jhin and Ezreal rise in priority for both these individuals, and with so many AD carries taken off the board, G2 want to quickly grab themselves the Jhin.
Will be the first Jhin of the split for Hyanan. It's important to remember we are on patch 8.5, so the Ginsu's Jhin 2000 AD power spike will not be hit in this game, unfortunately.
But Jin still very strong, especially with the current AD pool that is left available. What will Splyce choose to go for? Wow, instant lock-in of the Sivir, going back to early on in the split, and also a big team fight pick for Splyce. Looks like they've made their intentions very clear this game.
Going for the Janna for the disengage in that bottom lane as well. Don't expect to see too much action down there. And it hampers Jankos as well. We said he wanted an early aggressive jungler. Well, he's gone for the Olaf, but bot lane is going to be very hard to gank.
So, here we go, G2, they are definitely all about the early to mid game with the kind of playstyle that they want. You have Olaf, who's great at setting up early ganks. He has a couple options in both mid and potentially bot. Top could be a possibility, but Sion can be rather difficult to gank, especially in terms of that 2 versus 2 early on. So I imagine his focus will be around the mid and the bottom side of the map, but it's very important for G2 to get this early lead. For Splyce, it's all about stalling, farming, scaling. And 2 items, that Swain becomes a monster. But the later this game goes on, 3 item Sivir is a team fight terror. Swain is going to be a huge team fight terror. Trundle is going to make that front line of G2, which is already weak, even weaker, and just a quick opportunity for them to shred through it. And overall, Splyce looked like that they're going for fight. They're sticking to their style.
Has been their style, just to wait for those team fights to try and play around them. They are one of the best team fighting teams in EU, but going up against a very strong early game G2. I have to see which team is able to enact their strategy better. Lots of eyes on these junglers early on, especially Jankos.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited to see what they can do. Battle of the brothers, battle of former teammates. It's Kasing versus Shannon. It was these two that made each other so well known back in the day. So many friendships now turned into rivalries. Both these teams looking for a spot in the final at Copenhagen. So much on the line. It's game 1 of our first semi-final, man.
It's going to be incredible. As you say, there's so much up in the air in this game. G2 looking to maintain their dynasty. Splyce looking to establish one of their own under the tutelage of Peter Dunn. Going to get on to Summoner's Rift. Game 1 between Splyce and G2.
So many fans have been waiting for this moment. Can G2 be dethroned? Will we potentially see new kings, or will the dynasty remain? So much left to be seen as we jump into Summoner's Rift. G2 Esports versus Splyce. G2, they did have side selection. They did choose red side. We probably should have mentioned that in the draft phase, but pretty obvious on the minimap, as you can see. And so we already talked a little bit about the early game for G2. Very much focused around mid to bot. Jankos on this Olaf going to be looking for a lot of early ganks, because the great thing about Olaf, he trades very well in the early game. He has great ability to set up ganks with his constant spam of the axes, but Trundle is considered the newest kind of counter pick into that Olaf. He's one of the few junglers that can outduel him early on, and his ultimate, once he hits the level 6 mark, steals a lot of resistances away from the Olaf. That's what Trundle's always been known for, the kind of tank shredder. And someone like an Olaf who's just running into your face, trying to dive onto the backline, it becomes a lot easier for your AD carry to kill if you just steal away all of those resources. So it becomes a lot harder for Jankos to optimize the strengths of Olaf later on into the game.
Have to see if Splyce are able to weather that early game storm coming out from Jankos, though. They did spot him out early on. He's going to start on the Razor Beaks. Not the most common first start. Usually you see a jungler going to a buff first.
So he's intentionally doing this to lower his HP. You can see the attack speed increases, the lower health he gets. He also gets a lot of lifesteal from the W on the Olaf, and he's yet to pop a pot, so you can clearly tell that he's more than familiar with this path. It's always a risk of a potential jungle invade, but Xerxes on the Trundle, slightly slower clear speed than the Olaf, and so he's not too worried about it.
So let's have a look at some of the lane matchups here then, Betty. As bot lane, I think probably not too much action going to go on with the Janna and the Sivir being safe into the Jim and Tom Kench, but top lane is a matchup that we used to see a lot before Gangplank was nerfed, and now really only Wonder plays this Gangplank in EU.
So usually top lane carries are more than happy to play Gangplank if you're good at the Gangplank, and you can't just blindly pick it into anything like you could before, because things like Stopwatch got nerfed, and the amount of sustain and gold you could generate also got nerfed, and you'll have to note as well, look, Wonder running Grasp of the Undying as well, rather than the typical Kleptomancer that we saw for so long. So his gold generation reached that Triforce Power Spike that much earlier. It's not as prevalent as it used to be. So he's trading pretty effectively in these early levels, but Auto Omnate around level 3, and after he gets his first back, got a bit of action in the jungle.
Yeah, because actually going to get rooted up there by the Never Move. Lots of damage going down onto him. Flash used. Niski's not going to be able to chase. Perks had the mid priority, so was able to come across a little bit quicker. And these two junglers are definitely ones for us to watch. Both Jankos and Xerxes have good second half of the split. Xerxes, of course, being first in the All-Pro team, and he's much more of someone his team needs to carry, whereas Jankos is someone who's more an enabler for his strong lanes. Perks caught out, will flash. Jankos actually going to jump across it. Xerxes in there. Niski can't get the Never Move, but first blood to Splyce.
It's so good that you just bring up the junglers and how pivotal they're going to be as Xerxes finds the kill onto Perks. Very good start for Splyce, and it really does emphasize the playstyle of this team. Splyce often rely on Xerxes to get those early advantages. He's the guy that went from doing nothing in the early game to being extremely proactive and finding a lot of Splyce's early game success.
Yeah, the yellow line there represents his jungle proximity, and you can see how it jumped up about week 6 to between 45 and 40%, much higher than the average in Europe. Jankos almost going to die to Ocean Drake here, but G2 will secure it, so they get something back for losing that first blood in the mid lane.
But good punishment there from Xerxes. So we get to have a look back now. Perks, he's just kind of backing in the bush. They're aware of his presence. Xerxes comes in for the collapse. The absolute annoying passive of Swain, where basically you can drag anyone in if they're CC'd, also applies on the Trundle Pillar. And now remember, no flash available on Perks. The combo that you can do with the Trundle and the Swain is primed and ready. They want to see if they can catch him out, but Perks playing towards the bot side where he does have vision, and he's basically respecting the fact that there could be a jungler in the top side of my lane, and I don't really want to go there.
And Xerxes just spending a little bit of time around here, knows the teleport's gone, knows the flash is down from Perks as well, knows that he's pretty safe playing around his mid lane. Niski's going to be able to push forward as well. Nothing major in terms of advantages for them off this positioning, but putting the pressure onto Perks is always a good idea. He's so consistently been the carry for G2. He is their franchise man, the man who stuck with the team through all of their last 4 splits and is now looking to make it 5 in a row.
Xerxes heading up towards the top lane. There is no ward in that tri-bush. We'll give an easy gank avenue for Xerxes.
Niski's on his way up as well. There's a Vision of Empire. Flash away from Wonder. Caught out by Odo. They're going to dive him down underneath the tower, but Wonder manages to survive. Decimated Smash, not quite enough to take him down.
They don't want to overcommit. Wonder forced to use the flash, but Odo does the same. So no massive advantage gained for Splyce other than forcing Wonder back. And that will likely result in the TP coming out from Wonder as well. So they're not going to have that available anytime soon, but he will have the ultimate to have that cross-map impact. And this is where we kind of want to see G2 looking for plays towards the bot side. We've already seen Perks have a decent amount of push and pressure in the middle lane with the Rise wave clear. And with a cool thing you can do with Tahm Kench is if you just back up towards behind your tower, you ulti, you bring your jungler then straight into the middle of the lane, you apply a bit of damage, you have the immediate follow-up with the Jhin W, you have a Rise portal in too. It can be pretty effective trying to dive this bottom side of the map, but as you mentioned earlier, Sivir, Janna, so much disengage available. Janna even running the cleanse along with the heal from Kobe means that this could be a very difficult lane to gank, even though we've seen multiple teams try to do it in the past.
And neither of these teams actually do tend to play through their bottom lane that much. You know, as much as Kobe was a carry in the start of the split, it wasn't Splyce playing towards the lane, it was Splyce stalling until the AD carry hits 3 or 4 items and you give him someone that buffs him up with an Ardent Sensor like a Janna, like a Zillion as well. Looks like G2 might be playing towards the top side of the map for the moment, just clearing out Vision here. And the Vision game is so important when both of the junglers have had a strong early impact.
Yeah, and it feels like that for the time being, they're just getting a bit of vision control towards the top side. I think they're worried because Wonder has no summoner spells available, so if Splyce are going to look for a return gank anywhere, it will be up in the top lane. And by having those 3 control wards, you can see littered in the river and towards 2 of the entrances for G2. They just pretty much have everything covered, and that should keep Wonder nice and safe. Jankos even heading up towards the top side.
Odo does have his ult, just going to try and unstoppably onslaught out of this one. Jankos still on the chase. Odo face plants into a wall, and Jankos gets a lot of damage down. Here's the cannon barrage as well. There's no escaping Odo! And Jankos kills his former brother.
And Odo, he used the flash to try and get the kill onto Wonder in the top lane. That made it very easy for Jankos to take advantage of all the vision that they had set up. The Predator gave him enough move speed to get the chase down, and G2 find themselves a very early kill. And Odo, just a bit of disrespect here. Slightly overextended in the lane, thinks he can get out with the ulti, and then a good use of the Gangplank ultimate to buy time as well. More than enough damage to allow Jankos to pick up the kill.
Jankos wants that final spot. You can
he
sense
does.
it. He's like, oh no, even if I have to kill you time after time, I'm going to take that spot in the finals in Copenhagen. 8 minutes in, it's a slight gold lead for G2. They do have that Ocean Drake as well. A Cull sitting on Wonder, so he's trying to farm up and scale up on that Gangplank in the top lane.
Just keeping my eyes on the vision. See how it's shifted over to Splyce now. Wards littered across the top side. They want to make sure that Ryze doesn't look for a roaming ult play up there as well. And 2 controllers invested into the entrances on the bottom side. So Splyce very active in early control wars to just make sure they cover everything in terms of this early game. They want to try and make it as hard as possible for G2 to find these opportunities. With Drake spawning though, this vision may very well shift towards the bottom side of the map. Teleport is going to be unavailable for Odo, but Splyce, they have the Ryze set on this blue buff, it seems.
Perks does have his teleport if Splyce decides to do something down towards that bottom lane. Here comes Woodid as well. Level 6, Abyssal Voyage is an option. Jankos on his way. And the deadly push. Here comes the curtain call as well. Woodid taken low, but he's going to jump away with the blast cone. Blue buff resets. And Splyce cannot take anything out of the G2 jungle.
So Jankos looks like he decides not to drop a ward over the wall. Splyce have not entirely given up on this yet. They know Woodid is going to be forced back after losing his flash. They should have a numbers advantage, especially without perks in the vicinity. This could just be the 1v1 jungle trade. TP comes in.
That's from Woodid, actually. Switched out with the unsealed spell, but the pillar doesn't land in the right spot.
That could have been very risky with no flash, but he successfully zoned Splyce away. He will now help his mid laner secure the blue buff. G2 successfully deny the steal.
So now that we see blue buff go over towards Perks, I want to talk a little bit about the mid lane matchup, because Perks has been consistently a stronger carry than Nisqy. Nisqy did have a great performance in the quarterfinals, but Swain into Ryze is not something we see too commonly, especially since Swain is banned in most of our matchups.
I mean, unfortunately, there's not a huge amount to say in terms of the early game, because both of them are pretty reliant on items and scaling. Like, you can see both of them have picked up a Catalyst. You've also got the tier on Perks. So primarily in the lane, they just focus on wave clear. And then once you hit 2 items is where both these mid laners really turn on. And Perks is really good at finding picks and kind of making roam map plays, whereas Nisqy offers a lot more value in team fights. And as the game progresses, Perks will kind of lose value, because especially against tanks, his short range makes it very difficult to get onto the carries, whereas Swain kind of doesn't care about anything and just keeps running into you. He can be kited a little bit, which can be rather obnoxious, but his main job is to just get into the thick of things, and when you are paired up with a Sivir, it becomes a lot easier to do that.
Splyce definitely going on the hunt. Pull back there from Nisqy. This is passive, as we said. A second Ocean Drake went over to G2. They seem to be finding good windows in which they can punish Splyce's back timers. Yeah, everyone from Splyce was back in base.
This is also like really efficient dragon control. They got a very early one. We're on track to, I believe, get around 5 Drakes appearing in this game if G2 can continue this kind of control over that objective. But what we hear a lot from top laners is if you get 1 Ocean Drake early, that really helps in terms of your laning phase, because you can constantly look for these trades and recover a lot of the lost damage taken. But getting 2 Ocean Drakes, I can just hear Odo being extremely upset right now that I kind of want to shut down this Gangplank, and he has way more sustain than I can deal with. So Wonder going to be in a very happy spot as he works towards his training force.
And the 3rd Drake is an Ocean Drake as well, so G2 can get that. It just helps them extend the laning phase, which seems to be what they are doing for the moment. 12 minutes in, not too much between the 2 teams, but the early game, I think we would both agree, has gone in G2's favor.
For the time being, this is really where G2 needs to start being proactive. You've got a Gangplank ultimate, you've got Ryze ulti, you've got Tahm Kench ulti, so many tools to move around the map and take advantage of the fact that Splyce can't respond as quickly in this early stage of the game. So they need to try and force things, they need to be the ones to be proactive, and the last time these 2 teams met up, G2 were just that. They were so quick to make decisions. They forced a 20-minute Baron, which could have been very risky, but they did it with such confidence and as a team that it ended up paying off for them. So we need to see that kind of G2 to find an early advantage, because Splyce, they're just stalling, they're waiting, they're buying their time. This is absolutely fine for them, because they know when it gets to the team fight stage, they're going to have they're going to be the ones who are favored.
And Ocean Drakes don't help you too much in that team fight phase as well. Maybe if you can reset, regen, and then go back in for the fight, it can work, but sure you prefer to get double Infernal if you really want to go for those team fights later on. Splyce once again setting down towards this bottom side. Niski just roaming around as much as possible. There is a ward that he will be spotted on, but Splyce are going to push for the tower here. They've done a great job of chunking it out. Jankos and Hyana trying to defend. Predator was used, and Splyce will realize they cannot force any further for the moment.
It's really difficult for Jin in this 2 versus 2 to really shut down the Sivir, largely because she has the spell shield, which kind of mitigates your grenade, and also it's melee into range support. We know Kasing does prefer that style of play, and it can just constantly harass and be obnoxious against the Tahm Kench, forcing Hyana and Widget under the tower, and that's why the tower is in this kind of situation. This time we put a little bit more focus and emphasis on G2 trying to play towards the bot side. That was one of the things that they have to be careful of, because once Splyce get that tower, they have all the freedom to start roaming around the map and start sieging elsewhere, force the game playing into a 2v1 situation, deny him more farm, open up the map more, and basically make things harder for G2 to be proactive in the early game.
Jankos is trying to sneak behind here. Here's the bot lane play. There's the Abyssal Voyage, just trying to get behind this bottom lane. Kobe puts the spell shield down, flashes away from the Deadly Flourish, and now Splyce going to try and turn this one around. Teleport's coming in. The knockback, Puck's knocked out of his own ultimate. Oda 1, they joins the fight. Unstoppable one shot was used. They caught onto Widid, and Widid is not in a good spot here at all. G2 make the engage, but they're the ones that lose their support.
Oh, really good pillar there from Xerxes to interrupt the Rise ulti and get Jankos caught out of position. Good response there from Splyce. They should secure themselves the first tower of the game and a first one team fight.
Great stuff from Splyce. First tower in that bottom lane, 1,000 gold lead as well. Wonder's not going to be able to get the top lane tower, although they do have teleport on perks if they want to use it. G2 trying to answer with pressure in the mid and pressure in the top lane. Teleport is going to come down here, and Yanan opens up the curtain call. Hits onto Kobe with Did behind Kasing, the cleanse away, but Kobe's going to walk straight into Jankos, and that Olaf is in a very nice spot. Kobe's going to fall. Jankos secures the kill, and we see Kasing fall in the bottom lane.
Oh, big mistake there from Splyce. They overstay in the double teleport available from G2 from their mid and support. Top lane is still has it, enables them to get the turnaround, get themselves 2 kills, and G2 answer back effectively. So this is where things all start. The big issue here is that Olaf ends up getting spotted by Xerxes because he's clearing out his red buff. Splyce already feels something is amiss. They try to disengage, which means they're immediately able to go for the turnaround. Good pillar there coming out from Xerxes, allows them to catch Wadid out of position as he tries to save his jungler, and while Jankos works away with his life, Wadid is not so lucky. Now typically here, you should just push the wave out and then go back to base. Splyce decide to stay for an extra wave, and then G2 just split their focus. They say, Wadid, you go for Kasing, we've got the TP coming in from Perks who can help you out. And then meanwhile, up towards the blue, Olaf is securing the kill onto Comet, allowing them to get themselves 2 kills.
Be very back and forth in the early game. 15 minutes in, really nothing between the two teams. Splyce will be confident, although perhaps not too happy with the last play they made, the overextension of their bot lane. G2, on the other hand, we said they needed to start to make plays. We saw an attempt at a bottom lane play that really didn't pay off for them.
Yep. It's very, very true. We did talk about how it can be difficult to gank this bot lane, but also it's just the fact that they did it when so many spells were available from Splyce. Think about if they had done it a little earlier when Odo was forced to use his TP back into the lane and G2 had that teleport advantage. But now it seems that they've swapped things up. They've sent Gangplank down towards the bottom. He's going to be catching those waves. They've got Perks with a tower to keep him safe. They've also got Jankos hanging around. Perks taking a few more tower shots than he ideally would like. And now both bottom lanes have been moved over to the mid. This is going to be harder for G2 now to play towards that Drake, and Perks being forced to ulti out.
As the Realm Warp away, we'll get to safety though. Could see that Xerxes on that Trundle was moving up. Has been a pretty good catalyst, a spark for Splyce here, involved in both of their kills. Hasn't been as active as perhaps he has on the Zac, but now he's going to try and catch out Jankos. Kobe possibly on the hunt, but did eats up his jungler. Here's the curtain call as well as Hyana tries to snipe away from the side, but the Unstoppable Onslaught's going to hit onto Jankos, and Odo wants revenge for the kill earlier. Takes down his brother, H2K on H2K action, and now Wadid is not in a good spot at all. Splyce collapse, capitalize, and get 2 kills.
Splyce with the 4-man unit find another successful collapse down onto G2. They are punishing the poor teamwork that we're seeing right now from G2 so effectively and continuing to get these kills on the board. They're going to be able to secure themselves their first Drake and gain more vision control over the map.
getting the Ocean Drake away from G2 as well, stopping them getting their third 1,000 gold lead now for Splyce. And the vision control that we keep mentioning is paramount for these two teams, especially when we get to the portion of the game where Baron is there, when you're looking for team fights. The ability to deny your opposition any awareness of where you are absolutely turns the tables in a fight. Perks is going to get top tower. It will be the first for G2 in the game, and it will even out that gold lead once again.
So G2 still very even alongside Splyce, which is not really where they want to be with this comp. Now Jankos, he goes to clear out the ward. Splyce successfully go for the collapse. At this point, G2 should just disengage, but they see the gangplank ultimate and they think, oh, we can go for the re-engage. They don't respect the Scion coming down from the top lane to get the collapse onto Jankos and Woodid. It's 4 members of Splyce. They have Swain in the middle lane as well, and it was just split decision-making there from G2. They didn't realize that the Gangplank ulti was simply there to help them get away, or the call may have been to, no, we can fight, and then it ended up just being a poor situation for G2 to find themselves in.
During that replay, Repelled was taken by Jankos, so they are looking to break this mid lane tower. No minion wave there with them, but they have 4 players strong. Then Xerxes, Kobe, and Kasing to defend. Niski now joins it up. Rifto just used for the damage. Again, perhaps a little bit of missed timing from G2.
Well, I think that they know they can't really get priority on the wave against the Sivir, especially when they're running the Jinx. They'd rather just use it in that kind of a situation to get as much damage down as possible. In the event that should Splyce pick a poor back timing, or maybe if G2 can find a pick, that makes securing that tower a little bit easier. So just do it sooner rather than later. Now for Splyce, everything seems to be going perfectly for them. This mid game is definitely the situation that they want to be. We saw Xerxes finding a lot of great early opportunities. Their bot lane is very nicely farmed. Now they haven't quite hit those item spikes that they want with their composition, but the fact that they're not behind G2 is definitely the kind of environment that they want to find themselves in, given they have drafted more towards mid to late game team fighting and plays around the back.
Well, let's look at exactly where we are in terms of those items. Trinity Force finished on Wonder. You've got Abyssal Mask and the Archangel Staff. Seraph's actually completed on Perks. Only an Essence Reaver on Kianan as well, so he's lagging a little bit behind Korba, who has the Essence Reaver and the Zeal already complete. Almost a fully stacked Rod of Ages as well on Niski, so that scaling that we wanted to see from Splyce is starting to come into effect. Not quite at those 2 or 3 item spikes yet, but with their current items, they are able to get mid lane tower down. That's good stuff from Splyce. They're just opening up that map a little bit more.
Yeah, and remember, at this point in the game, should both teams fight, it should still be relatively even. It's just, as the game progresses, things will get a lot harder for G2. But you've always got to keep your eyes on the 2 big carries for G2, Wonder and Perks. These guys have carried this team out of worse situations in the past, and whenever you give Wonder a carry, you know that this team is always a threat. But then for Splyce, their team fighting is the most terrifying about them. As you rightly said at the start, one of the best team fighting teams in the league. Their coordination has been second to none ever since the start of the split, really. That's never been this team's weakness. And they've only been able to grow from there. That's why so many people were excited for this series. So many predictions for a full 5-game set. And so far this game, we're delivering very back and forth, very close in terms of the gold. Yet to be determined how the next few segments will play out.
There's a lot of options for G2 as well. You've got the Abyssal Voyage, you've got the Realm Warp, you've got a TP on Wonder, a Cannon Barrage to join the fight. There's so many different ways that they can turn a fight in their favor just by using all of these utility ultimates and their ability to move around the map. Splyce, on the other hand, don't really have that to the same degree. They've got the on the hunt, they've got the chase potential, but a lot more of the time they're going to want to be joined up and maybe have Odo splitting, and then he can run in from the side of a fight.
Yeah, that would be their ideal scenario, you know, to have Odo ulting in from the flank as you identified, and then just have the Colby ultimate to immediately follow up on that kind of an engagement. But basically grouped up is what Splyce want.
Yeah.
They've got to use these windows pretty effectively, and what you'll see is, now look at the side waves from Splyce. G2 trying to force a play in mid right now.
Realm Warp used, Kasing's pulled up towards the top side. Curtain Call comes out as well, but Perks eaten up. Could see Xerxes and Kobe doing a lot of work here. The on the hunt pops as they run towards them as well.
Now look at top lane. This allows Niski to roam down to mid because he's the one that's created a window that G2 has to go and catch, or all that farm is going to be wasted in the turret. The fact that G2 tried to force this mid play in their window and were unable to find anything means that Splyce do have the tempo advantage. They can gain vision control around the Baron, and now G2 are the ones on the back foot. I doubt Splyce are going to rush it down with their comp. It's not the fastest this early on into the game, but G2, it's good that they're finding these proactive plays. Unfortunately, they're not making them work.
Perhaps a little bit of the weight of the situation on their shoulders as well. You have to remember these are the 4-time consecutive champions, G2, looking for their 5th title in a row, looking to tie up Fnatic, and they're looking for the dive on towards Perks here. Splyce doing so much work. Niski with the Demonic Ascension is going to absolutely shred through Jankos, but the turnaround from G2 is strong. All 5 players up in this top lane. It's an all-out brawl, and no one is going to die. Jankos and Perks retreating. No teleport on either of them, so they can't rejoin this fight.
But look at the sustain on Splyce right now. Even though G2 have the double ocean, it is Niski's ultimate that is giving him all this lifesteal. Xerxes' ultimate as well, stealing all those stats and health away from Jankos, keeping him available and tanky in the fight. Man, it's so easy to just push Jankos out, push Perks out. They secure themselves the final outer tower, and they maintain control over the river. Splyce working excellently as a team, forcing G2 to constantly group where they are constantly faltering.
However, they are still within 400 gold, and they're about to take a mid lane tower as well. The unstoppable onslaught comes out from Odoamne, but it's not enough. Bashes into the face of Wonder. Kobe now off towards the side as Tianan comes in. Niski's got the flank off as well. Jankos pushes forward. Wonder caught out between 2 members of Splyce. He is solo, but he manages to flash across the wall up towards the top side of the fight. Xerxes dead. Perks has joined the fight. The Cammy, the king is here, and Perks is cleaning up the snipes from long range. G2 turn the fight on its head, and they kill Splyce in the mid lane.
G2 find a successful fight. They get themselves 3 for 0, and now Medic, they have their eyes on the Baron.
Said they weren't out of it, Vedius. They come right back into it with a great fight in the mid lane. Their team fighting was on point. They're going to get the Baron. They're going to push in. They're going to have a 3,000 gold lead. And G2 are looking strong in game 1.
G2 picked a perfect time to go for a fight because so many ultis were unavailable for Splyce. You can see some are still on cooldown. Some are available because Splyce couldn't use them. You've got to be primed and ready if you're Splyce, if you want to go for the full 5v5, because G2, they are still very strong at this point in the game. So, keep an eye on the situation right now. Rise, not yet there. He can't get into the thick of things, but the thing is, the fight is split off. Jankos and Xerxes, Jankos actually winning this because Xerxes doesn't have his ultimate anymore. He's now chasing onto Kobe, who is doing no damage, which means that Wonder and Tianan can just freely hit onto the front line without any risk of falling behind. Fantastic ultimate there from Tianan to find the pick as Splyce were trying to retreat. They found the kill onto Xerxes, they found the kill onto Sivir. They secured a final one onto Odoamne, and they turned it into a Baron. And now with this early lead, this was the kind of lead that they needed too. They didn't wait too long, they finally found the fight, and now 25 minutes into the game, G2 have the Baron.
And with it, they're going to look to take down as many towers as possible. There's one. We'll have to keep track of exactly how much they get off this Baron. Niski's still trying to answer into Perks. Has the Liandry's. Looks like Perks is going towards Rabadon's Death Cap next, and Jankos pushes forward here to get vision control. Xerxes and Niski, there's the Abyssal Voyage, there's the rotation we talked about from G2. Niski underneath the tower, but Xerxes is caught out, somehow survives, eventually goes down to Tianan, and now G2 are just running down Niski. Not many places for Niski to go. The Realm War comes out as well, doesn't get taken, the flash away. Niski actually managing to escape from G2.
G2, good use of the Tahm Kench ultimate to move from mid on to bot. Punish the fact there are only 2 members defending. G2, they are not slowing down. They're all aboard the hype train right now, and they're looking to ram it through Splyce's base.
They're going to get Inhibitor tower off this, maybe even an Inhibitor. They still have 10 seconds before Xerxes is back up. They decide not to push too much further now. They have got enough. They're 7,000 gold ahead, Vedius, 26 minutes into this game.
They're keeping an eye on where the minion waves are, and they also have a lot of gold that they need to spend. Splyce will push things out. G2 still have a minute left on the Baron that they want to try and take advantage of. And I think it was the safe, smart call. So here's the collapse. You can see that Splyce should have had vision of this. There are wards littered towards the entrance of the river and the bot side of the jungle, but they were too focused on trying to keep this tower alive. They thought Kobe and Kansig could rotate down fast enough. Unfortunately for Xerxes, that was not true. And while Niski may be no gingerbread man, he still had his flash. He was able to get out of that situation, and then G2, they secured themselves 2 towers.
Niski's no gingerbread man?
Yeah, it's a good reference to run as fast as you can. Can't catch me.
Yeah, it was very well. Very well done, Vedius.
So
look at that gold lead, though, in the mid lane. Perks is 3,000 gold ahead of Niski now, and there's a 2,000 gold lead for Wonder.
Now, I must admit that Niski hasn't played poorly this game. It's not like he's done anything wrong, but we haven't really seen much of his impact this game. You know, you compare that to last week where in the quarterfinals, his impact was really being felt against Rocket. He's kind of struggled to have that same kind of value on the Swain so far in this game.
And especially since Splyce first picked the Swain deliberately, Perks actually flashes away there from the never move to keep himself safe. But when you first pick a champion, you really need it to have an impact in the game. Maybe can still scale up, will still scale up if you can get to another item, but G2 do not want the game to continue any longer. They're pushing in with that banner of command minion.
Barry the Banner minion. He's feeling pretty confident right now. We'll continue to apply pressure in the middle lane. We've also got a bit of a push from G2 in the bot too. We'll rotate up towards top side, but the wave clear from Niski and Odo will be enough to hold the line. And with the Baron buff gone, Splyce may look for an opportunity to fight. Looking at the ultis, they are all up and ready. G2 gonna respect it and just disengage. But given that now everyone is resetting, I want to take an opportunity to look at the bird's eye view to just show the kind of vision that G2 have available over the map right now. Because you can see that all across the bottom side of the map, there are just red wards littered everywhere. They have full control over Splyce's jungle, they have everything set up to perfection, and it becomes very difficult for Splyce to really move around their half of the map. So you can see this is Splyce's vision right now. They're walking into their half of the jungle, they can see what's going on, but if we have a look at G2's vision, you can see that they have so much control over the entirety of the map. They see so much, and it makes things very limited for Splyce to really move and be proactive where they want to be.
Having those pushing side lanes as well just gives you that extra vision which can really help out. And you can see G2 once again pushing into the jungle of Splyce, trying to deny any of that vision away. A 5,500 Baron power play there for G2 as well. This game is very much snowballing away from Splyce. 3 items on the Jhin, 3 items on Perks as well, building up toward his 4th. Compare that to the other side, Splyce really haven't completely come online yet, but they do still have the hope in cupboard for those team fights. You've still got an Ardent Sensor to buff up that Sivir, you've still got a Swain, you still have the opportunity to make plays. Just whether G2 will give you an avenue into these fights.
This is it. G2 have to show a lot of respect to the team fighting power of Splyce's comp. They recognize that it is very easy for Splyce to engage on this G2 composition. And so they're not being too aggressive right now. They're taking the precautionary steps. Take vision control, steal what camps they can, wait for Baron.
And that's all they have to do. They've got a minute and a half before the Baron comes up. They can just reset. There's no vision at all for Splyce in that river to the top side. One ward really up towards the top lane, but now Wonder will come across. They'll clear out the Scuttle Crab in a little bit, and they will have total control of the map. And this is much more the G2 that we wanted to see coming into this series, as opposed to the G2 that struggled early on in the split.
Well, early into the game, it was a little worrying for G2, but they found a good fight against Splyce. Splyce really should have just conceded that mid tower rather than trying to fight for it, and that one poor decision has very quickly been snowballed upon by G2. But again, Splyce, their comp is still so threatening. They've been in this situation multiple times throughout the regular season, especially the first half. And whenever you think Splyce is down and out, Corbett comes online. He's the guy that Splyce turns to be the factor, the X factor that can take his team to victory. He's on the Sivir, he has 3 items, and he's still in a prime position to turn this game around.
Thirsty coming in from the side, that actually caught out Jankos, eaten up by Wadid, the knockback on him as well. G2 lose 1, and now they need to run away because Niski's a demon form. Perks flashes from the never move. Splyce get the kill they want.
And look, Baron is about to spawn. Splyce are the ones now in position to take it. G2, they grouped up mid. They were showing so much respect to Splyce up until that moment. And just as we say it, Splyce find the punish, and now they're going to look to punish G2 even harder.
However, Jankos still has Flash Smite, can get into this fight. You've got the Realm Warp from Perks. G2 will want to fight this one. We've seen mistakes made around Baron last week. Throughout the course of the split, teams do throw at Baron, and Splyce don't want that to happen. Deadly Flourish comes out, they're going to start it up. Here's the curtain call as well.
It's going to be quick.
This curtains for Splyce, 8,000 HP on the Baron. Watch that health bar. Splyce don't want to, they want to re-engage, trying to get on towards Jankos. Odo doesn't have the unstoppable onslaught. Perks from the side, catches out Niski, but the never move's going to pull back Jankos. Xerxes chasing down, and still no one gets caught. We did back up as well. He's going to rejoin this fight.
And now G2, they're the ones that have priority over Baron. But ultis are coming back up for Splyce. Odo's is just about to be ready. Zeus is about to be ready. Niski, still a little bit more time on it, but at this point in the game, we could look for a fight. Good CC there from G2 to deny the engage from Splyce. But there's a big wave top that Splyce need to answer.
Big wave bot as well that G2 will have to answer at some point. Wonder does have the teleport, can go down there. Odo has a teleport of his own.
So no Baron, unfortunately, their medic. I thought it was a very dire situation, but what did sacrificing his own life was the best case scenario because his impact around that Baron was minimal, and therefore that allowed G2 to set up the successful stall. So nothing major gain. They still hold on to a very big goal, but you can see why this game is still so close. Even though G2 are this far ahead, this comp of Splyce is just so terrifying when they're grouped up as 5.
Oh, so powerful, especially if Kobe can get a lot of damage down from the side and not get caught out. The Ricochet does absolute work in fights. But on G2's side, you now have to look at Wonder. He's scaling up on this gangplank. Yep. He is that carry that really solidified G2's spot in the top 2 come the end of the split.
And I must say that while Splyce may be one of the best team fighting teams in Europe, G2 is one of the best split pushing teams. They know how to very effectively use Wonder when he's got a lead. Perks, well, his rise is good, and when he's in a position where he has over 600 ability power and he's level 18 on rise, I'm sure he's more than happy to play off in a side lane, create this constant pressure that we're seeing on the top side of the map, and force Splyce to split apart. But now the Baron's alive, they've reclaimed vision control around the river, and Splyce, they're looking for a fight.
Wonder, more out, Xerxes there is the pillar, but Woodid is able to eat him out. Wonder had to use his flash for that. If Woodid is in a fight, that initial engage from Splyce will not work, because he can always devour the target. You can see Perks is positioning off towards the top side of this fight, trying to come down and flank from the top side, but I'll have to see if it does work. Trevor Henry says today, G2 Wonder takes on Kobe. Former teammates, both Danish, looking to qualify for the EU LCS Finals in Denmark. Is anyone smart enough to tell me who is going to win?
Me, says Kobe.
Catch out on towards Jankos. He's going for the finals as well, but at the moment, all he's doing is getting caught out. Odo jumps in. Wonder knocked up. Remember, no flash, but Woodid can eat him up. Rice still down towards that bottom side, and now G2 are looking for the re-engage. The curtain call comes out. Wonder there with the parlay, just getting a bit of extra damage down there, waiting for Perks to be able to come back into this fight.
But look at the ultis that we use. That's the crucial thing here for Splyce. Kasing will enable his team to reset with the ultimate, but Kobe's is unavailable. Xerxes unavailable. Odo unavailable. Whereas G2, they also have nothing available, so they
they've
can't
only got their
force a
movement.
fight.
They do
that's
have
all
the
they
realm
have.
warp. They do have the missile voyage.
But they're not in a position to fight. I actually felt like the Splyce came off much worse in that situation because they had used a lot, whereas G2 hadn't. But misread it, didn't look fast enough at G2's ultis, who are in a similar position, so they don't want to fight either.
Double teleport is still available on the side. Trying to catch out Jankos. Niski is not in this fight. It's a 4v4 for the time being. Woodid there, front line. Xerxes solo. The catch onto Odo. Knocks down the decimating strikes. The Ash comes out, but Niski not there in time. Woodid eventually falls. And now they're chasing onto Perks. Odo in the zombie form, doing what he can from beyond the grave. Ends up being a 1-for-1.
But this is great for G2, taking out one of the big frontliners for Splyce. This early on in the fight will allow them to regain control over the river, over the Baron. 8k gold lead for these two teams means very little. It just means that it's going to be some very close fights, but it's always that Sivir that is the scariest part. G2, they look so good after they got that Baron. You guys saw the gold graph where that small lead snowballed into an 8k gold lead, but now Splyce have been able to stall things out. This Baron has been the big objective that both of these teams have wanted to play for, yet neither of them have been able to secure it. Now G2, all they were trying to do was get a bit of vision control around the Baron. They were not expecting 4 members to be in the brush, but then they very quickly respond, getting the flash out from Xerxes, and they kill down onto Odo, who had no flash available. Niski shows up to the party and is able to get a return kill. But aside from that, still very even between these two teams.
But we are getting to that late game where Splyce have been so effective.
I mean, I feel like we're pretty much there.
4 items on the Sivir.
Yes.
3 items on your Swain as well. But Niski really hasn't had the impact in fights that we expect to see from Swain. I remember watching Clutch beat TSM in NA, and Forbidden was the carry in a lot of those fights. He was the one making the big plays. We've yet to see that from Niski.
Well, there's still an opportunity for him to do so. G2 do not have the same control that they had before. Now Elder Dragon is available as well. This could be big. Engage comes out from Splyce.
Jankos caught out, forward backward, it has to flash. Perks off towards the side, trying to do what he can. Kobe goes in with the on the hunt, but once again, it's just a disengage from Splyce.
But now they're rushing straight towards the Elder because while they don't get the successful fight, they are able to get a lot of chunk damage down onto G2. The regen coming in from Jankos means that they're now heading towards the Baron, but Splyce see this and they're responding.
There was a ward on that Elder, so Kobe was spot. He cleared it out. Hyanan up towards the top of this. That Baron is going low. 8,000 HP on it. Xerxes going in with the pillar. This is on Niski to try and get into this fight. There's the Elder, and then the fight will be stronger for Splyce. The Baron goes down, Perks rail warps out of the back of the pit.
And they get out.
On the chase. Wadid there, Oda as well. Wadid is going to be sacrificed by his team.
Again.
They get the Baron, and Wadid is the one to fall.
So, objectives traded. G2 take the Baron, Splyce take the Elder. Given their comps, both teams get what they want. The question is who can now better optimize, because there are 5 members of Splyce, and they have their eyes on a mid lane inhibitor.
At the moment, Wadid has 60% of his team's deaths. He's been sacrificed a lot of times, and Splyce are going to try and capitalize on the fact that he is not alive at the moment. Pushing forward to this inhibitor tower. G2 cannot defend. The inhib tower will fall, as will the inhib afterwards. And Splyce get exactly what they wanted out of that Elder Dragon. They retreat back. They can even go down towards the bottom lane with this huge wave and try and take out that tower as well.
I feel like they're going to keep the momentum going. Wave clear not the greatest from G2. They're actually going for an engage.
They're pushing them back. They're forcing them away. There's still a wave down towards that bot lane, top lane tower as well. Splyce will get out of the back of the curtain call. Abyss of Voyage available for Wadid if they want to chase. But G2, I do not think they'll go any further.
I had the impression that G2 might look to go for a TP play top, try and trade a top lane plus an inhibitor tower, then stop the bases, but they decided not to. Now, this was fantastic from Wonder, zoning away 4 members using his ultimate and the barrels, while Jankos and Perks, along with Hyanan's assistance, just rushed the Baron down. Odoame goes in with the ultimate. While he's not able to land it on anyone, they're able to at least get the chase down onto Wadid. And to be fair, you got to give a lot of credit to Wadid, because he's not dying because he's out of position. He's often giving his life up for the sake of either his team or his teammates, and that really is a good guy's support.
And a lot of the time he doesn't have his flash because he's flash devoured someone to keep them safe. So it's doing exactly what you should do on Tahm Kench, keeping his team safe, keeping his carries alive.
It's protecting the KDAs of his teammates, man.
It's so important for these G2 players, I'm sure. Full build now completed on Perks, as is Hyanan. Full build on the other side for the 2 carries. Actually, we've seen Niski just trailing behind a little bit. He's gone for a control ward in that 5th item slot. Have to see if he is able to get that next big item completed on
Peter Dunn drilled that into him. Always have control wards at this point in the game. Having vision and information is so important. A bit of poke coming back and forth. Elder Drake has one off. G2 still have the Baron for another minute, so they're rushing down mid, knowing that there is a big bot wave and towards the bot side, but also because they want to get into the wave with the supers. Top is slowly pushing in favor of Splyce, but Wonder has TP along with the Gangplank ultimate, so G2 not going to be too afraid of it for the time being.
Perks caught out with it there with the Devourer though, and Hyanan is doing a lot of work on this Jhin as well. Here comes the engage, Unstoppable Onslaught, trying to catch onto him. Jankos there as well. Demonic Ascension, the damage is huge. G2 Wadid, somehow keeps him alive. He dies in the belly of the beast, and now Wadid's going to get caught out as well. Perks tries to run away, but you can't move away from Niski. However, Wonder's rejoined the fight. That second carry for G2 is huge. Odo caught out. Niski from the side trying to get on towards the Gangplank. Flashes in, the kill, Kobe, the carries, they come huge, but Splyce and Perks pops lasagnas, but there is no escape for him at all. Jankos chased down by Kasing as well. He gets away, but Splyce win the fight and are looking to end the game.
Look at the death timers on G2.
Oh, Kasing! That is why he has been to 3 semi-finals. That is why the Kasing effect is a thing. He stops Jankos from backing away, and Splyce will end the game.
They're looking for the Nexus. There are 2 members. Kobe is still alive. This is the late game insurance we talked about. Splyce is looking to take game 1. Kasing is looking to continue his annoyance. Splyce with the big win.
And with this, Splyce are going to sink their fangs right into this series.
Man, G2, they had an AK gold lead, and throughout we were saying, this game isn't over, guys. It is still so close. And it was Splyce that finally found that big team fight win in the end, and You know, something we didn't talk much about, but something we've had a lot of discussions with in the office and kind of together as a team was when you compare Hjarnan and Kobbit in these late game fights, who would you put your bets on? And it always came down to Kobbit. And in that final fight, Hjarnan in the middle lane, no Devour to keep him alive, no flash available, gets engaged on, gets shut down, gets killed. And Kobbit flashes in, secures a double kill, gets his team the team fight win. And this is the difference that we see in these two late game carries. Kobbit comes up huge for his team.
That's the guy that wants to get to the finals in his home country. Kobbit with a great play at the end of that game. But I'm sure both teams will go into their dressing rooms and think, that could have been cleaner. That could have been crisper.
Yes.
There's a lot of changes that I'm sure both of the coaches will be trying to make coming into game 2.
Poor, but we know we're in for a nail-biter of the series. Like, that was so tense. It was so back and forth. Really enjoyable to watch. Seed 2 versus Seed 3. We were expecting high quality, and we're getting it right now. Splyce get themselves first blood. I'm expecting G to answer back in kind in game 2.
Well, Jankos is the first blood king, so I'm sure he'll have something to say about that. What a performance from him, actually, in the early game. Did a pretty good job on that Olaf, managing to catch people out. Xerxes answered with a little bit of pressure of his own, but neither jungler really came out on top.
I do feel like Splyce had a bigger impact in the early game, given their composition. They should have been much more towards the scaling aspect, but not only did they mitigate a lot of the early pressure from G2, but they also turned it into a couple of early leads as well. So I was quite impressed with what Splyce were able to do. Do I want to see more from Jankos? Well, that's a little debatable. I feel like that overall he had a pretty solid performance, but when you think about the fact that we died 6 times, and a lot of them were not his fault, it kind of puts into perspective how often G2 were out of position, and he had to sacrifice his life in order to save them. So I feel like this, I'd like to see a little bit more from G2 overall coming into game 2, because I felt like that they weren't entirely respecting the composition and what Splyce could do as we head on towards the mid lane.
Yeah, I think part of it was the Swain Trumbull combo as well. If you get one bit of CC, then the Never move comes out and you just pull him back.
Sorry, friend, this was really frustrating.
That's right, thank you. For a closer breakdown of game 1, let's hear it from our analysts.
Thank you very much. How sweet. I'd also like to welcome Amazing to the desk together with the Fishu. They're also going to sort each other out. But what a fantastic first game in the semifinal. It was blow for blow, action-packed. I had a lot of fun watching it, but it seemed a very tense one on the Rift. Before we get into any replays, did this go very fast from the worst possible way for Splyce to lose a game 1 into the best possible way, confidence-wise, for them to win it?
Ooh. I wouldn't say this is a confident win. I think it's
but the ending,
it's a work win, you know, like they basically just like relied on a lot of the comp and basically like the strength of the comp to carry them, because I didn't feel like they actually played to the win conditions really well, but they relied on G2 to not play properly.
Well, that's what I mean. They were put in a disadvantage after the mid-game and they fought to get back, which to me is admirable and a good thing to do in a game 1. However, that's the end. Let's take a look at the beginning of the show, because those first moments in a best of 5 can be very influential. And we had our eye on Jankos and that specifically.
Yeah, a lot of this comes down to junglers, of course. Jankos is a man where there's a lot of questions regarding his performance in these big games. And that first start looked pretty risky, where he almost goes down, and it's kind of like, okay, Xerxes wins the start early. Olaf actually will lose to Trundle in the very first few levels, but Olaf can then out-farm. In this case, because he's forced back, Perkz is greedy.
Oh, man.
Don't recall there.
Why would you do that?
Because he's like, the jungler's surely not going to show up here.
It's not going to be that smart, yeah.
Yeah, why would he do that? He just fought at Raptors. There's no way he walks around. Wait a minute, he did.
So, pretty good start, but I feel like the early game story overall, as we get into our next replay, was very much blow for blow. It was very much not perfect plays on either side, proactivity, then getting answered, as it was here. A very good start from Splyce, who will turn up with 5 people.
Yeah, so credit to the teams for actually being aggressive in the first game on stage, but then, of course, as we see here, big play from Kassane to then knock them out of this Perkz ulti, and the whole dive is kind of risky from G2 because of the chances so many people can respond.
Yeah, you definitely didn't take into account any of the TPs. Like, Niski also had the ability to basically follow up, and you basically force a situation where you're 4v5, because G2 will never have that TP pressure coming in.
And then, because, you know, when you do something really well, sometimes you gotta mess it up. Copy and Kassane are like, we're gonna push this all the way out. Problem for them is, enemy Tahm Kench actually sits with TP in this case, so he shows up. Oh, there's another TP coming. And it's one of those mistakes where the bot lane from Splyce will be like, sorry, we didn't realize they had double TP ready. We just wanted to push and run away. simple play after you already won a fight, gives a bunch of kills back. And this entire game, and the reason we showed these kind of recap replays was just to show the first 20 minutes was constant. I do something really well, then you get to do something very well, and they just keep trading with each other, and no one got the upper hand.
Which is something we see often in the first game of a best of five, is that blow for blow, some individual mistakes here and there. So why do you think G2 in the mid game then got the upper hand?
Because obviously the comp had a lot of tools to basically protect into the 1-3-1 that they kind of executed, where they obviously had the GP damage come in, they had the Jhin ultimates come in, and obviously Ryze at that point can actually destroy front lines. So for them, they hit the spike and they abused it well.
Yeah, one thing I really like, and I think it's a little bit underrated, is how good things like Tahm Kench and Jhin are at sitting mid lane once the laning phase is over. Because Jhin ult basically covers the entire lane, and he trades really well on one item with other AD carries. So when Sivir walks up to kill the wave, Jhin walks up to kill the Sivir and force her back. And you have to be really careful when you lane against them. And the moment Jhin Tahm Kench gets control, they can ulti to the side lane. So it actually allowed G2 a lot of map pressure, where Splyce were kind of waiting for 3 items on Sivir before they were like, okay, now we can group and just team fight. But until that point hit, they could actually fall behind, and that's what happened.
Yeah, right before that point, 24 minutes in, as you say, G2 had full control. They had the power spikes that they wanted, and they pull off this play, which eventually results in Baron. And I honestly thought it was pretty much over after this.
Yeah, basically at this point you get the national, obviously like the setup itself, like you have Junkos like flashing in onto Kabe, Perks jumping in too, and you can basically like one-shot or at least like control the backline. And that's something that's really important for G2's comp, because as soon as Sivir is able to pull out damage, their comp crumbles. And that's something that didn't allow this team fight.
Yeah, and at this point here, Sivir is not very strong. There was no ulti for Niski either, which is kind of the key thing for Swain in team fights. So it was a really perfect moment for G2 to fight. They took it, they reacted like, I love Yankees Flash there. Like, that's obviously a team who's confident they're going to win this fight. When he flashes over the wall, they get Baron. And as you said, this felt like, okay, now game is all in G2's favor, but ton of wave clear, great scaling, super good 5-on-5 comp from Splyce. Made us say, this is not over.
This is not over. We're looking at Jankos here, but to me, when this fight happened, it really came down to, okay, how can G2 close this out? Who are they waiting for or relying on? To me, that was Wonder. And on the other side for me, it was how can Splyce come back with their comp, but also through Kabe. So for me, it was a toss-up between those two. Did you guys see that the same way?
I mean, I did kind of, because obviously Kabe was going to be carrying those team fights, but I think for G2, it's basically like they were supposed to execute the 1-3-1 continuously afterwards. I think the GP not being side lane after they get the Nashor, for example, and them continuously walking down mid lane, trying to force mid party for no reason whatsoever, made them cost them basically the Nashor buff, because you have 4 minutes to abuse it, and they didn't use that window at all. So they didn't walk sideways, they didn't force the 1v1, which is something you want, and you don't have the Tahm, you have the Tahm Kench, you have the Ryze, you can always hold in, and they didn't use that at all.
It also just showed how difficult that comp would be to play in the late game team fights, because their front line was effectively Jankos, and whenever he got poked down, Wadid had to eat him, and then Splyce would just kill Wadid, like every single time. Like, Tron the Pillar is fantastic right there. If someone is trying to save someone in the front, you just put the pillar behind. And we got to see G2 win, like almost win a fight, but then also lose a trade 1-for-1, and they never really got further ahead until we then get to that point where you know the enemy team is running Sivir, Sion. That is just run smack into your face in the mid lane. Never, ever overextend as a carry.
They're called out, Yarnan. Let's cue it. 41 minutes in the final fight. Look at that positioning.
Look at the Jhin. So Wadid needs to be with his AD carry. But he eats Ryze, and now Yarnan and Jankos are like, wait a minute, why are we even here? This is so overextended, and there's no Devour until now. And that's too late. It obviously gives the kill with the Liandry. So.
And they were also, like, as a team, completely synergetic at that point. They had Wunder on the bottom lane for once, where they could actually execute what they're supposed to do with their comp, where Wunder destroys Oda Unknown in 1-3-1, and they're going to rotate towards it. So them getting caught in the mid-wave at that point was extremely crucial, and obviously lost them the game in the end.
And we see, for sure, Peter Dunn sitting backstage being like, yep, that's what the draft wanted to do. Just get into the late game, wait for someone to overextend, hammer into him with hard engage. Splyce, in that case, ends up abusing how good the comp is at hard engage and 5-on-5. Kind of got carried by the comp a little bit in terms of what happened.
Were they supposed to even find that opening late? That is, for me, completely on G2. Like, after that first Baron, they give it away.
Yeah, at that point, no. I mean, Wadid and Yarnan's job is effectively never be completely split up like this. And it was just kind of weird what G2 tried to do with the poke. And as we said before here, you don't have a front line, really. The moment you are overextended or someone is out of position, you die in like 2 seconds.
So we do need to move on pretty quickly. However, amazing, I just want to know from you, for G2 going into game 2, as you take a look at their picks and bans, is it as simple as they need a better front line? Do we not want to see Wonder on a carry then, which is something that we've praised them for the entire split?
I think they have to put one on a carry. I think them relying on Hyunmin to basically fill that role is something they cannot really do. But I want more understanding of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to win, because I don't feel like that G2 understood how they were supposed to win and how they were supposed to play the game. So for me, I just want the coaches to sit down with them and tell them, hey, we didn't play our comp right and we have to do it next time.
I think the G2 on red side trying to ban out 280 carries plus the Zac, which they have to take away against Thursday, meant they had to give up Swain, which put them in a pretty tough team fighting spot. I think they're going to be blue side now, which means they might be able to grab it and actually build a stronger team fighting comp than what Splyce had.
A lot of questions. Let's see if we get some answers. The first game here goes to Splyce, but in the final game of the spring round robin, Splyce, they fell to G2 in a sudden death tiebreaker. Before we take a break, we'll hear how, for their support Kasing, it was an especially hard loss.
And I felt like we should have won that tiebreaker game for sure. But, you know, it happened, and it was on me, which is why we lost. Because there was like different calls on what we should do, and I was the one that called for the fight, even though it was not a good fight. But in my mind, I had a different vision, but we just didn't play the fight correctly, and then after, the execution became bad.
It's stolen! No, it's secured by G2, but in the ensuing fight, Wonder is trying to lock down Kobe. Kobe's getting pulled away. All of a sudden, Xerxes already down. No, Ono, first to run for his life. G2 Esports sending their regards. Get themselves...
I think honestly, after losing, like, I never felt more depressed, because I felt, usually I'm a really happy guy, but the fact that I knew I just lost the game for 4 others that I really care about, my teammates, and obviously the coaching stuff too, you know, it's like you had one job and you didn't call it. And in that moment, I felt like, you know, I up, and I never want to repeat that again.